Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. Today is episode 3 of Ansible Zero to Hero series. We have already completed the first 2 episodes in this series, wherein day 1 we learned about the introduction to Ansible and getting started with Ansible. In day 2, we learned about passwordless authentication, inventory file in Ansible, and Ansible ad hoc commands. Today is day 3, where we will jump into the world of Ansible Playbooks. Before we will understand the basics of YAML, because a lot of subscribers were asking about the basics of YAML. So we will cover that first, and then we will head towards understanding Ansible playbook structure. In the Ansible playbook structure, we will cover what are plays in Ansible, what are modules, tasks, and collections. Not just that, towards the end of this video, we will also learn our very first Ansible playbook, where we will create a web server and deploy static application onto that web server, which is hosted on a EC2 instance. So please watch this video till the end. It's going to be very informative and you are also going to gain practical knowledge. Before I get started, a quick reminder, all the notes related to this Ansible Zero to Hero series will be shared through the GitHub repository. For example, if you go to the day 3 folder, you can find the complete notes that I'm going to talk about, and also the YAML files and any code that I'm going to use in the demos. So you can start this repository, fork it, watch it to get the continuous updates. Now let's move to the whiteboard and start our first topic for today, that is YAML. So what exactly is YAML? The textbook definition says YAML is a human readable data serialization language. What does that mean? Let's say you want to write a Python application, and this Python application needs an input which can be as simple as list of users or list of students in a class. So basically you want to pass some data as an input to your Python application. Obviously, this data can be fed to the Python application in different ways. One is you can pass this data as input using a text file. You can pass this data as input using JSON, or our topic for today, that is YAML. Now your question can be, Abhishek, what's the problem with text file? If I'm passing this information through a text file or data through a text file, I don't need to learn any other languages such as JSON or YAML. So text file is not recommended, especially if the data is simple, it's still fine. But imagine if the data is complex and has thousands of lines, text file is not recommended because it's not a proper format, or there is no standard structure where data has to be put in a text file. Example, maybe if I'm writing this text file, I can put list of students name where each student name in a new line. Someone else who is writing this text file, they might put 2 students name in a single line. Or someone else who is writing this text file, they might put first student name in the first line and maybe give some spaces, and second student name in the third line, third student name maybe in the fifth line. So the problem, if you are asking user to put the data in a text file and pass it to your application, the data can be presented in different formats. Why? Because there is no standardization or a set requirement that text file has to be written in this format only. Otherwise, your Python application can throw a syntax error. That's not possible because there is no syntax or semantics to a text file. This is where templating languages such as JSON or YAML comes into the picture. So they are standard templating language files that are agreed, accepted, and defined according to the standards. So if you don't write or if you don't put data into the JSON file as per the requirement of the JSON file, then you will get syntax errors. That means everyone who is writing a JSON file or everyone who is writing a YAML file, they need to follow a specific standard. That's why you will see that in DevOps, when you are passing some information either to Kubernetes or to Ansible and many other applications, you use standard templating language such as YAML, where data is structured and available in a serialized way. Now you might also ask, but Abhishek, why not JSON and why YAML? The answer is simple. YAML is much more human readable and you don't need to learn. It's not very difficult to learn YAML. It's very easy to get started with and also very much human readable. You will understand once I explain the structure of YAML file. So now I hope you understood why usually data is represented and passed as input either in JSON files or YAML files and not in text files. Now the next thing is how to write YAML. It's very, very simple. Even if you follow the document that I have in this repo, you can learn YAML in exactly 10 minutes. All that you need to know is 4 things. First is you need to know how to write strings, numbers, and booleans in YAML. All 3 of them have same syntax. Just provide the name, colon, space, and value. Even for integer, just provide the name of the integer, colon, space, and the value. Name of the boolean, colon, space, value. Then you need to know when to use a list and what is the syntax for list. When to use dictionary, that is key value pair, and what is the syntax for it. Finally, list of dictionaries, which is of course covered if you learn both lists and dictionaries. If you know 4 of these things, then you know YAML and how to write YAML. Let's take an example. Abhishek, let's write a YAML file where I will write about myself in a YAML file. Okay, the task is to just write about myself in a YAML file. So first, I will put the name of the YAML file as Abhishek.YAML. Every time you start writing a YAML file, so assume using Vim, I have created this file name. And what I'm going to write in this file, first line, you always have to provide 3 hyphens. This will tell that this is a YAML file. So you always have to put 3 hyphens. Then let's say I'm going to write about myself. The first thing that I'll write is what is my name. Okay, which is obviously a string. So colon, space, Abhishek. If you want, you can put that in single quote or double quote. Then I will say the age, which is an integer, but the syntax is same, colon, space, and here I am going to say, let's say some age. So whenever you are writing string, you can just put it in single quote or double quote. When it comes to age, which is a number, you can just colon, space, and put it. Then let's say if I'm working or not, which is a boolean, right? So boolean should be true or false, but the syntax is same. So if you just know how to write string, you know integer as well as Boolean as well. Then let's say, what are my tasks? So my task is not a single task. I have list of tasks. So what I will do is I'll click on enter and make sure you leave 2 characters. Don't put anything for the first 2 characters. From the third character, just put hyphen, space, and start writing about your task. So my first task is, let's say, YouTube content creation. Again, click on enter, leave 2 spaces. Then from the third, hyphen, work. Again, third, and let's say what is my next task? Take care of home. Now let's say I have another task to do some exercise every day. So this is how I will write a list. For string, number, and or integer and Boolean, the syntax is same. When it comes to list, first put the name of the list, then leave 2 spaces. From third, give a hyphen and write the list of your tasks. Then let's say I want to put my address. In address, I have multiple key value pairs. Again, leave 2 spaces. From the third, what is my first key value pair? Street. Okay, what is the value? I'll put some street. Then city. Then state. Similarly, pin code, country. So each of these things is a key value pair. Street is a key, value is something. City is a key, value is something. State is a key, value is something. So the only difference between list syntax and the key value pair syntax is when you are writing list, what you will do is for each item in the list, you will use a hyphen. Whereas for each item in a dictionary, you will not use this particular hyphen because they are key value pairs. So you will just declare directly. You will not use the hyphens. That's it. If you know this, you know how to write YAML files. Of course, it will take some time when the complexity of the YAML increases, but this is the basic structure. You can also use any online YAML linter. So I have already written this. If I just do the linting, it says, yes, it's a valid YAML, whatever you have written, Abhishek. Now that we understood about YAML files, let's learn about Ansible Playbook structure. So Ansible Playbook is basically a YAML file. And just like any YAML file, even Ansible Playbook starts with 3 hyphens. And a playbook is list of plays. What does that mean? Playbook is a combination of plays or a list of plays. So each play that you write in your Ansible Playbook, just give a hyphen and write a play. Again, give a hyphen, write a play. But Abhishek, what goes into these plays? Very simple. Let's say your task is to set up a DB server as well as set up a app server. So you can write the DB server installation and configuration in one play, app server installation and configuration in a different play. So this will be your DB server play and this will be your app server play. We have this example in the Ansible documentation as well. If you go to start writing Ansible playbooks, no? So the same example, start with 3 hyphens. So this is web server play. You can see it is started with a hyphen, and this is DB server play, which again a hyphen, and this is your complete play. Now, Abhishek, what goes into the plays? Okay, you explained about playbook. Now, what goes into the play? A play has first the host section, which explains against which host should this play execute. Just like in ad hoc command, you provide list of hosts, right? Similarly, in a play, first you start with explaining the list of hosts against which it should run. Second, you provide the remote user with which this play has to execute. Do you want to execute this play using a root user, Ubuntu user, whatever user that you would like to? Then you start writing the tasks. That's it. Tasks is basically a list again, right? Within the DB server itself, your first task can be installation of DB. Second start can be starting the DB service. If you go here, you will find the same thing. Your first task within the task is to install Postgre. Second is to start the Postgre service, right? So each playbook, understand it carefully. Ansible Playbook is basically a YAML file. Within the YAML file, you start with 3 hyphens, and inside the playbook, you can have n number of plays, 1 play, 2 plays, 3 plays. How do you decide? Depending upon your task, you can split your task into multiple plays. You can definitely write both of them as well in a single play, but they have clear separation. So better put them this as a play and this as a play. And within each play, you need to provide against what host this play has to execute, using which user, what are the tasks within that play. If you want, you can put variables as well, but we will learn about that in future. Now coming to tasks. Abhishek, what do you put in the task? Just like in an ad hoc command. What were you doing in an ad hoc command? You were using modules, right? We were using shell module, we were using yum module, apt module. Similarly, even within the task, we will use modules. Okay, so if we try to put that in a simple way, one more time, at the head level, you have playbooks. Playbooks is basically list of plays, right? It is a list of plays, and within each play. So if you assume this, in playbook, you have play 1 and play 2. Within each play, you have things like hosts is the first one that you declare. Then you declare what is the remote underscore user. Then you declare tasks. Again, task is basically a list. And in each task, you will use a Ansible module. What is a module? Module is the one that is actually performing execution. Okay, till now the plays, hosts, tasks, they are not doing the execution. But if you want to install DB, in that task, you have to use the module that can perform the installation of your DB. If you want to start your DB service, then in that task, you have to use the module that can start your DB service. So modules are the one that are actually performing execution of your actions using Ansible. So if you refer to this example, here if you see, to install Postgres, the module that we were using is Ansible built-in module yum. To start the Postgres service, we were using Ansible built-in module called service. I'm going to explain about the built-in modules, custom modules, and collections in next 2 minutes. But before that, let's spend good amount of time understanding the structure of playbook. Because once you understand it, you can write any kind of playbook. I'm repeating again using this example, or let's take the example that we have in the Day-03 folder. So what we are going to do is, in this example, I'm going to install a Apache service and I'm going to deploy a static application onto the Apache service. So I have 2 tasks, right? Starting with my playbook, I will say 3 hyphens. Then in this case, I just have one play, that is to install the web server and deploy the application. They are not two different things. They are only one thing that belongs to my application, right? Both of them are related to my web server itself. So I put them in a single play. If at all I have something related to database or I have something related to any other application, I will create another play. But only because I need one play, I'll start with hosts. I'll say hosts as all. Become true means run with root user. If I'm not providing this, then what happens is my Ansible play will run with the user that I have configured. In this case, it will be Ubuntu, because in the last class, we configured the Ubuntu user. But of course, to perform activities like apt install or to perform installation of web server, I cannot do it with Ubuntu user. So I'm using this syntax called become true. Whenever I put this in my play, that play will run as a root user. Perfect. Then I have multiple tasks here. Task 1 is to install the Apache server. Task 2 is to just take my HTML file and put that in the var www HTML location. Abhishek, how do you know that within this task, this is the module to start Apache server? And how do you know to copy file? Because I'm not writing code, I'm only using YAML file. How do you know to copy the file? This is the module and this is the syntax for the module. Very simple. Again, if you go to the Ansible documentation, click on learn about modules. There are just 20 to 30 built-in modules that we use on a day-to-day basis. Throughout this series also, I'm going to use those built-in modules. As we keep using, we will learn them. But if you go to this particular section, just scroll down, you will see a section called collection index. Click on that. And here you have collections in Ansible namespace. Click on that and you will see this one called Ansible built-in. So just go to that Ansible built-in and these are the modules that we have. So these are the built-in modules. Depending upon our activity, we are going to pick the module from here. You might be thinking, Abhishek, there are so many modules here. Do I need to remember everything? Definitely not required. Very simple. According to your task. So what is my task here? I'm going to show you how will I write this YAML file in next 2 to 3 minutes. It will not take anything more than that. What we will do is first, I want to install a Apache server and that is on Ubuntu, right? So this is my first task. How will I usually install? Using apt. So just go to that page, search for apt. So I have a module called apt module. Click on that and directly you can see the syntax to install the Apache server, or you can just replace anything with Apache here, right? If you want to install, let's say Python, or if you want to install Node.js, or if you want to install any particular thing, if it is available on that machine, if it can be installed using apt, you just have to copy paste this, right? So Ansible built-in apt, name, state, basically you provide the name of the package that you want to install. State means if it is present, it will install. If you say the state as absent, then it will delete the existing package or the service on that particular Ubuntu install. Basically, present absent means install and uninstall. Now, you might be wondering, but Abhishek, what exactly is this built-in? I'll come back to that. There are built-in modules and custom modules. But before that, this is our first task. And now going back to the second task. What is my second task? Once I have my Apache installed, the second thing that I have to do is I need to take a HTML page, which I have here. Okay, this is my index.html. I just want to take this HTML file and I want to deploy it onto the web server that I just created. So what do I need to do? I need to take HTML file on my laptop and copy it onto the EC2 instance to a particular location. So the module that I need is copy. Just again go to the built-in functions, search for copy. So it says copy module, copy files to remote locations. Exactly what I need. Just click on that, and again you can search for the syntax of it. See, this is exactly what I've done. I've taken this. What is my source? Source is just the name of the file because the file is in the same location as my Ansible playbook, right? They both are in the same folder. First playbook.yaml and index.html. They're in the same location. So source will be the name of the file. Destination, where www.html, because that is where I have to put my file. Owner, I can create as root. Group, I can put as root, and I can keep the same file permissions. So that is exactly what I've done here. So source is index.html, destination, where www.html, root, and 644. Now let's take this file and let's see if it will do the job for us, right? So I'll take my terminal. I already have the same file on my terminal. In last class, we configured the inventory file already. So what do we have in the inventory file? So I have one instance and two instance. Doesn't matter how do I group, because I'm going to run on all the machines. So now I'll say Ansible. In ad hoc command, we were using something called Ansible, but now we will use Ansible -playbook. -i, what is my inventory file location, right? Just replaced Ansible ad hoc command with Ansible playbook -i inventory.ini. Then provide the name of your file. First playbook.yaml. If you look at the playbook.yaml, in the play, I have mentioned all. So it will be executed against all the hosts in my inventory file. Okay, now let's run and see. The first task that every Ansible play will run is gather facts. What is gather facts? Basically, it will see if it can connect to that EC2 instance or not and get all the required information from it. Okay, now if we go to the EC2 instance, let's see if in this EC2 instance, manage node 1, let's connect to it. So we will see if the Apache service is installed and if the file is put in var www HTML folder. First, let's do sudo ps-ef grep apache 2. Okay, we don't find that. Is there any typo? I actually have the state as absent, right? So what has happened? It tried to uninstall. Of course, that is not present. So it did not install, but the second task would have been successfully created. First, I've changed this to present. I'm not executing it, but I will just show you. If I go to sudo ls var www html, you can see the index.html file. But this particular thing, the installation of Apache server was not successful because the state was absent. I have changed it and I will run it one more time. Again, the first task that will execute is gathering facts. Gathering facts is nothing but it is trying to see if it can connect to those EC2 instances. Install Apache HTTPD. See, it clearly said changed. That means the task is executed. It said okay, okay. That means it is already there. So the summary is that overall on each of the instance, it executed 3 tasks. One is gather fact, one is install Apache, one is copy the file. One got changed because the other was already there. The file was already there. So only one task got executed. Now let's see running the same command. See, I have the Apache service here. The process is running. And if I just do sudo systemctl status Apache 2. See, Apache 2 is also running. Now, all that I need to do is again go back to the instance. This is my instance, right? And in this instance, I'll enable the security group because I need to allow ingress traffic on port 80. Otherwise, I cannot access that application which I have deployed. I want to see if it works. Edit inbound traffic rules, add rule, just say HTTP coming from anywhere, save rules. Okay, now let's go back to the EC2 instance. Take that instance public IP, copy, paste it, enter. Okay, something went wrong here. Yeah, so I'm learning Ansible with Abhishek.Veeramalla. This is exactly what I have in the index.html. So this is how you execute your Ansible playbooks. At the first sight, because you are doing it for the first time, you might find it very complicated. You might be thinking, Abhishek, what are these tasks? How do I learn these modules? But as we keep going, we have 14 days. We will cover different modules. And whenever I'm writing the module, I will refer to the documentation and I will show you how I am picking the examples from the documentation. And you will understand how to write complicated Ansible playbooks. Thank you so much. See you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.